live in Moscow. I cover the region for French media, as said previously. And I've been comment dire le témoin? Witness of how history changed for the last 2 years and how Russia just went back to a very dark period of times. So, and I witnessed how the propaganda started to work and the consequences of this propaganda on my people, on Russian people. And just to make a parallel with what has been told before about propaganda, I think propaganda doesn't only make this conflict hard to resolve, it's the cause of this conflict. And we wanted to show in this film this parallel world in which these people on the Russian side are living, this parallel reality which they are living in. But as always, when you talk about dogmas and propaganda, it's very fragile. It can't last very long, and people always see the truth behind. But they haven't the choice of living in the real world and in a different reality. So they just have to cope with it and to find what they call the truth in it, because otherwise you just get mad. You can't live like this. So basically, how we made this film. I was covering news for a French TV channel at this time. It was February 2015, and my co-director James Q, he was also on an assignment in Ukraine for photography, because he's a photographer before all, and we knew each other for a long time from Paris, working for the same TV channel, and we met there, and we were making crews when we are freelance, like let's go today together on this side or something. And I had the contact of this battalion from a friend of mine who works for Russian state TV, Russia 24. And it was the only way to infiltrate this kind of battalion, because they are very close to foreign media at this time. So we made like a news report with them on the front line. It was first day of another ceasefire. And when I came back to Moscow, I kept in touch with Oleg, and we started chatting. And then I realized that he was pretty smart and not very trompé. Ce que je veux dire, c'est que Oleg était assez lucide par rapport au conflit. Yes, I mean, he didn't really believe in all this propaganda. So when I was telling him, like, but do you realize what's really happening? Like that, you say you defend people, but if you Russians wouldn't be here, this conflict just wouldn't happen, basically. And I realized, yes, he realized this kind of things. And I told about it to James, and our question was, but why does he stay here, and why is he fighting? Because he didn't seem like an evil guy to us, or someone who wanted to kill people, or a warlord, or he was just an ordinary guy. And that was the phenomenon that we witnessed, that this war is possible because thousands of Russian men like him went to fight on this side, and this is why this conflict is going on. Otherwise, it wouldn't be impossible, because Russia doesn't send troops, so they have to be volunteers. And I mean, yes, there are a lot of local volunteers who are just persuaded that Ukrainian fascists are killing them, but this is not enough. This war was also made half or more than half by Russian volunteers. So the question was, why do they stay if they see clearly? And there is a lot of people who don't see clearly, but we had this chance to have this kind of dialogue with Oleg. And he, so the idea of making of him a hero of a film came very naturally, because by covering the news and just telling the news, you don't really report on the conflict. You're trying to give facts, but you don't really explain its deep causes. So that's why we decided to start this film, and we went there by our own means, We didn't find any producer or looking for financing or making like writing a stories to send it to producers, because we didn't want to lose time, because the conflict was going on and Oleg was here, and we felt that we have a very privileged access to something that nobody witnessed, because I don't want to denigrate what is made by the Ukrainian side from the films and the reports which are made from the Ukrainian side, but psychologically it's pretty more clear why Ukrainians are fighting. They are defending their land, and there is a lot to say about it and the consequences for them, etc., and the PTSD, etc. But we wanted to be on the side of the evils, on the bad side, on the side of the aggressor, because where are the good guys and where are the bad guys? War is, from the start, it's simple. You always, I think, when you have not a lot of sides, like Syria, for instance, but when you have two sides, you always have the side which starts the conflicts, which is the aggressor, and you have the side which defend themselves. But daily, day after day, and month after month, and year after year, everything becomes so confused. You have good people on the bad side, you have bad people on the good side, you have people who try to make good actions, you have people who make bad actions, and everything is confused, and you have just one side which live in a parallel reality. And I've spent like in a whole, I think, between the film and my reports, I've spent like 6 or 7 months in this conflict. So I can talk about the PTSD, but yes, you daily you are just, when everybody around you is in parallel reality, you just start to think, but where is the truth? Where is the reality? And you just have to keep in mind how it started, because I was on Maidan, I was in Crimea, so I always try to remember it, because around me people just think completely different, and they are completely in parallel reality, and in Russia as well, and it's not easy to live with. So that's why it's quite emotional for me. So basically, yes, this is how we made this film, and then we came back, and when we were filmed almost everything apart from the last part, which you saw in the winter, we started to look for a producer, and we found Valerie, who is quite courageous, because this film is very difficult to sell for TV, and we have just found a broadcaster, but we had to make a 52 versions of it to fit in the format of television, which was also quite difficult to do with us, because it's our baby, so you like cut arms and legs and it's not your film anymore. But anyway, so yes, Valerie, she believed that this story was unique and this film was unique, so thanks to her we could spread it in festivals and finally show it on TV.